Welcome to the Darkstream. VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but we are still coming at you live from Barcelona. So, I don't know if you listened to the Big Bear stream earlier, but I was cracking up. You know, the whole idea that dinosaurs are fake too is, fundamentally disturbing in a lot of ways to those of us who practically lived for dinosaurs as children. But, the whole thing makes sense. The whole thing holds together. You're looking at it going, considering all the other lies that we've been told, considering that bread was supposed to be good for us, anything is possible. Yeah, well, David Burst, you don't have to worry about it because you're banned. Owen keeps recommending you, but your speech patterns are slow and monotonous. Dude, go watch MTV then. Go watch some rappers. Maybe their speech patterns will be of more interest to you because they have more syncopation and it's more exciting. Look, I have no problem if I am not to your taste. If I am not to your style, that's fine. But no one's making you listen to me. I don't care if you do. It makes absolutely no difference to me whatsoever if we have 253 people here or if we have 2,000 people here. It's just not of any concern to me whatsoever. We're here to talk about ideas, concepts that matter. It's not about my delivery. Big Bear is a comedian. He's an entertainer. I am not an entertainer. I'm a writer. This is not my medium. I utilize this medium because in a post-literate society, it's necessary. It's okay. I understand that. But, if you're looking for some sort of MTV entertainment, this is not it. And I mean, it's fine that some of you find me amusing, or appreciate my sense of humor, but that's not the point, So, yeah, Aristotle wrote, rhetoric, good ethos helps your message get across. Precisely. That's funny. Frosty the Bear said, just received the Irrational Atheist today. Had to buy a used one, and it's all marked up with red ink. That's hilarious. I like that. Yeah, we've been having a problem with an outbreak of bears, actually. VH1 to Big Bear's MTV. That's pretty true. Were we ever a literate society? Yeah, absolutely. In the past, people were highly uneducated. No, they were highly unschooled and uncredentialed, but they were actually educated and literate. Welcome to Gold Pack, Nan Nan. That's funny. No, I'll tell you what's crushing is everybody who is supporting the junior classics. It's priced in euros, but if you're capable of understanding the concept of currency exchange, it's hit 150,000 on its third day, and so this is probably going to be the biggest campaign that we've done yet, and I think it's really important because while comics are a surprisingly important front in the culture wars, the classics and the children are even more important. Try and Speak says, Vox, is there a timeline for Owen's special getting onto unauthorized? No. It'll be on when it's on. It'll be done when it's done. I don't think it's going to be too terribly long. I wouldn't think that it's going to be more than, 2 weeks or so. Welcome, Bearbarian. The Bearbarian. It's a good name. I like it. I'll get you a link here. Hang on. There's actually, it's actually right underneath the, let me see if this will copy properly for me. It's always a bit touch and go with the touchpads. So if you want to back the campaign, that's the place to do it. Purple Echoes, I'm so sympathetic. I would love to get the leather set, but hardcover will have to do. I was actually talking to my wife about it because she wants to pick up a set. Actually, she wants to pick up several sets, and I'm like, we'll get one set of leather for us, but I think everybody else can use the regular hardcover, and they're gonna look great. They're gonna look great. When are you going to go visit Varg? Probably never. I have nothing against Varg. I just very much disagree with him on pretty much everything he has to say about religion and so forth. How long will it take to complete the whole set of Junior Classics? We're hoping to have them out by March, the whole set. Will Space Bunny ever join us on a stream? Probably not. She's not really into that sort of thing. She gets asked to do stuff all the time, and she is pretty resolute. Try and Speak says, I got a hardcover set for my godfather who has 4 children. You are for your godfather. Yeah, they're going to love it, and that's really great. No Asparagus Bear, we don't talk about those things. We never talk about those things. But what I can tell you, and this is something that is very important, is that, the other night, I don't know, maybe a week and a half ago, we were talking about how far is too far. And it was kind of fascinating because the very situation that we were discussing in theory happened to come to pass. And so, just rest assured that whatever the Big Bear decides to do, I and the Dread Ilk and everybody else will be fully supporting him. And I have every reason to expect that the Big Bear is going to be very successful in his conflicts. So, Linda, drop it. Look, you guys, here's something that I find incredibly irritating, and this is not something that You don't need to know everything. In fact, you guys knowing certain stuff is counterproductive. All right? I mean, can you imagine before the Normandy landings, if people were saying, well, I hear we're going to, they're going up to Eisenhower going, I hear we're going to be invading the coast of France. Where are we going to land? Where are we going to land? Can you tell us where we... No. Don't ask. You know? I mean, I don't mean to be picking on people who are asking these questions. I understand you're curious. It's very, very simple. If I am at liberty to discuss things, I will. But if I'm not at liberty to discuss things, I won't. You know, one of the things that you'll see about all my Bravos is that the one thing that you can absolutely guarantee is literally everybody keeps their mouth shut all the time. They have no idea whatsoever. Nobody has any idea whatsoever. Most people don't even know who they are. Why? Because they don't talk. You know, and even just asking questions about things is drawing attention to things that is not necessarily productive. So if you have any reason to suspect that I'm not talking about something, then don't ask about it. You know, if I'm obviously not, if I'm obviously leaving out information, then don't ask. Yeah. When we can talk about things, we will. You know, it's great. But, you know, I mean, controlling your mouth, controlling your urge to say things or ask things or whatever, this is one of the most important skills that you can develop. It's really good for you. You know, and so, and not just in situations like conflict and so forth. Karen says, you managed to make Normandy funny. You're picking up this comedy thing fairly quickly. It's kind of funny. Big Bear and I were talking about the mechanics of comedy, and I actually think that that we could, you know, that I could probably write a very, very short comedy routine that would actually be funny. I think I understand the mechanics of it well enough. The problem is that what I think is funny tends to be too esoteric. You know, I was telling a joke at the table the other night, and everybody thought it was funny once I explained it to them, but literally nobody got it. So, okay, I guess that's probably not the best way to do it. No, that is something that I can talk about, and that's a good question. Someone asked about what the situation was with regards to this printing company that we are going to be working with. This is for the deluxe books, the deluxe subscriptions, which you guys have been supporting in a big way, and that is, I would not say it is completely resolved yet, but I think that we are rapidly approaching the matter being resolved. I think probably we'll know for sure within 10 days, and I will of course keep you informed. You're no Hannah Gatsby, but give it a shot. I don't know what Hannah Gatsby is, but okay. Yeah. If your jokes come with a flow chart, that's probably not going to be funny. Let's see here. Do you think there will be another Republican president after Trump? Yes. And notice, by the way, notice that President Trump is still alive. President Trump is still doing great. So again, we see that maybe the Alex Jones stuff is not to be taken particularly seriously. Oh, she's the Netflix comedian who talked about how she was raped. Yeah, that sounds like an absolutely hilarious set. Why would they do that? So, who should I order about book orders from Castalia Direct? I'm still waiting for my David the Good books. You should email books@castaliahouse.com. So Spengler saved the West. Let's go to the topic here now. Now, I want you to notice when the inversion starts. Now, keep in mind, this is David Goldberg, a.k.a. Spengler. There's a bit of a mystery regarding who he was. He's a Goldman Sachs guy who has been over in Asia for a long time, talking about how, the next century is going to be the Chinese century, et cetera, obviously involved in the whole leap to China concept of the last 20 years. He says, I'm grateful to the Heritage Foundation for this opportunity to speak about China's challenge to the United States. To be invited to give the Russell Kirk lecture is an honor. Okay, not particularly, but to be invited back is humbling. To be invited back, think about this. This guy who was completely wrong about China has been invited by conservatives not once, but twice to give what is effectively a keynote lecture to the Heritage Foundation. So these people, the conservatives, keep listening to the same people even when they're wrong. So he says, China's notion of what it means to be the world superpower is different than ours, though it is, and begs examination. Earlier this month, Kieran Skinner, head of policy planning at the State Department, had this to say, in China we have an economic competitor, we have an ideological competitor, one that really does seek a kind of global reach that many of us didn't expect a couple of decades ago. And I think it's also striking that it's the first time we'll have a great power competitor that is not Caucasian. Well, this is wrong on several, at least 2 points. Well, he said many of us didn't expect it. That's true. Actually, that's not, let me retract. That is not wrong because many people didn't expect it, but some certainly did and warned about this, decades ago. As Victor Davis Hansen observed, Japan was in fact a great power competitor and a formidable one, right? That was the other point that was wrong. So Spengler knows that. However, Spengler puts it in context. Japan's GDP in 1940 was 1/5 of America's, and its population was only half. China's GDP is roughly the same as the US and 25% larger in purchasing power parity. Its population is more than 4 times that of the US. And then he talks about, various Chinese investments and blah, 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 blah. But where it gets crazy, this is where it gets crazy, and this is where you start seeing all the usual graveler nonsense, is Dr. Skinner's broadly correct. We've never engaged a strategic rival with resources and skills on this scale. Now, of course, your first question is, who is this we, Kimosabi? We have never. Is he talking about the United States? Is he talking about the West? Or is he talking about the Jewish people? In America and China, we observe the confrontation of the national and imperial principle in their purest form. America is history's most successful nation state. Maybe. Its premise is the sanctity of the individual, the heritage of the English Protestants who in the 17th century envisioned a biblical republic. This is all true so far, except when I last had the privilege of addressing you 3 years ago, they've had this guy here twice in 4 years. I mean, I'm the one who warned about the 2008 financial crisis. I'm the one who correctly predicted Brexit and Trump winning, and I've also predicted Trump winning in a 2020 Trump slide, by the way. So we'll see about that one. These people would never have me come talk to them, but they want to have this guy come talk to them multiple times over the course of 3 years when he's wrong consistently. It's just so typical of conservatives. I spoke about our unifying political culture. What? What unifying political culture is that? And its ever-present theme of the individual's pilgrimage towards redemption. So now he's watering down the Christianity. Our sense of the sacred in every citizen has proven a stronger and more enduring bond than the ethnocentric nationalisms of the old world. That is a complete load of nonsense. And then he says China is the oldest and most successful empire in history. He has it completely backwards here. America is not a nation state. It's not a nation. To the extent that America was ever a nation, it was a British nation. That's why the Declaration of Independence talks about our British brethren, and it's why it declares independence from the King of England and not the King of France, the King of Siam, the Holy Roman Emperor, or anyone else. So here what we're seeing already is inversion. It's the United States that is the empire, the globe-spanning empire. It's China that is the actual nation state. China is 92% Han. So, it's interesting to read this stuff and look at this stuff when you see the way that, when you see the way that they just, I hate the way this stupid touchpad works. When you see the way that they invert the truth, the way that they change the language. There are many, many, many nations in the United States now. I'm going to skip to the ahead. You can find the link on my blog and read this whole thing if it's interesting to you. But what's fascinating is what he says, the United States should take these steps. Force key high-tech industries onshore using defense subsidies and tax breaks. A nation that can't produce its own semiconductors can't be a global power. Now keep in mind, this guy has been preaching free trade for 30 years. Now he's talking about industrial policy. It's not a bad idea. I'm just pointing out that this guy has been wrong about free trade for decades. Place export controls on high tech. Our problem isn't just forced technology transfer. Our companies are lining up to give their technology to China. Again, not a bad idea. Hardly sufficient. Change Department of Defense budget priorities to emphasize war-winning advanced technologies rather than legacy systems. No, this is totally stupid. This is the U.S. already has an addiction to technology rather than paying any attention to what is actually needed to win a war in the 21st century. Pass a new National Defense Education Act. And what is that going to do? They're going to demand to educate people that diversity is our war-fighting strength. Create an alternative to the Belt and Road Initiative in cooperation with Japan, South Korea, India, and others. They already have one. It's called the IMF. I mean, this isn't even wrong. It's just irrelevant. Engineer a brain drain of China's most talented scientific cadre. We cannot change China's political system by condemning the Communist Party for its reprehensible practices, but we can deprive it of the talents of some of its most creative minds. This is totally nuts. He's basically saying, let's invite in a fifth column. In fact, let's invite in a fifth column of people who are their best minds. It's almost astonishing that these people managed to defeat the United States and bring the West to its knees just by lying to them. That's why I said that, Americans, at least in conflict terms, are retarded. Just utterly retarded. The most powerful state, the most powerful country on the earth was defeated by a small group of people who convinced them that they didn't want people to call them names. Spiderbip said, "We never imagined such evil existed." That's because you stopped reading your Bible. You stopped paying attention to the truth. A high-trust society with open gates is not going to survive. So, this is why I constantly tell people, speak the truth, speak the truth, speak the truth. And don't live in fear. Let me read a couple of the super chats. M. Bolster did his thing. Thank you. Barebones says, Box Day, literary medium at large. I'm not sure. Medium. Okay. Anthony Sternlow says, thank you. Thank you, Anthony. That's very generous. Duralex Sedlex said, novels are read in public, huge audiences for the time. Well, if you think about it, what are we doing here? I mean, this is essentially identical. This is just an online version of Mark Twain's speaking tours. Mark Twain did not support himself by selling his books. The infrastructure for that stuff didn't exist. Authors wouldn't even get paid by the people publishing and selling them. But it was basically PR for them, so they could go on these speaking tours and people would listen to them speak and pay for tickets. It's basically like a concert or something. That's very similar to what we're doing here with the way that we're, you guys are supporting unauthorized TV and we go and stream. By the way, once I get back, all of this stuff will go up on unauthorized. As always, it's been recorded. I don't really have everything here set up to handle that. We're also waiting to get some news on the apps, which should be soon. Off topic, but I'm curious, have you read Henry George? I know you advocate tariffs. What do you think is the inherent weakness of LVT and his econ? I have not read Henry George, I'm sorry. Did Owen give you those bears? No. They are just here. So, the ADL just threatened Iceland. Well, they're getting bold. Most beautiful women after Norwegians? Probably the Czech Republic or Ukraine. Oh, I see. Yeah, a lot of European countries are considering outlawing circumcision, and they're going to do it. Europeans no longer care what people with excessively not large hats think, do, or say. Whatever. I mean, they don't tend to have the same guilt over the events of the 20th century because they suffered in many cases a lot more, and after that, seeing what is happening in Israel today makes them feel like the whole thing is hypocritical. So let's see, there's a question here I wanted to see. What is the most important war to study? Well, the one that I've really found very useful is the Peninsular War. And the reason is that the Peninsular War is essentially the first large-scale guerrilla war. You also had very, very effective leaders. You had Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, on the one side, and you had a number of Napoleon's. You had Napoleon sort of running the strategy on the other side, and then tactically, you had a series of French marshals, most of whom were very competent. It really covers a lot of different angles, and it is incredibly well documented. So I think that would be one well worth considering. Well, and it's also interesting that they would try to, an organization, a corrupt criminal organization like the ADL would attempt to actually threaten a sovereign nation and its government. Will the Scottish people push for secession en masse again in the near future? Yes, absolutely. The Scottish voted for independence. The only reason it didn't pass is because non-Scots were allowed to vote. Isn't Taco Bell overrated? You shut your whore mouth. No. Anyhow, it's interesting when we see the conflict is becoming more and more apparent to everybody. Try and Speak says, what do you think of the idea that World War II has become the creation myth for most people? Well, I think that's an overstatement, but it's I would say that's when our zero history begins. The zero historians always want to set a new beginning to history that erases everything before it. And in that context, I think you could say that World War II is the intended creation myth. Have you read Homage to Catalonia and your thoughts on it? I have read it, but that was years and years ago, and it all seemed it seemed like fiction to me at the time. So, I missed a super chat. Okay, let me check. Oh, I did miss that. Unseen 11 says, I just backed the Junior Classics set. Me and my future kids, thank you. No, thank you. You guys are making this happen. You guys are, we did not expect the response that we're getting. I thought, maybe it'll hit around 100. Maybe. It's you just don't expect that sort of thing. And so it's really kind of incredible to see the level of interest in it. Okay, I'm having some trouble here with the okay. For some reason, my stupid, well, I'm not going to be able to do any more chats here because I can't see them because of this ridiculous touchpad. So, and this is why I don't like to use touchpads. They just get, they just start doing crazy things on you. So, all right. Well, we better bring an end to this because